So, we're live. Hi, everybody. Hello, world. Wow, that's so bright, that light. Turn it down a bit. I know I'm a bright guy, but how is everyone?
Hey.
Hello to all the people that have never ever watched this show before and thinking, what the hell did I just click on? You've just clicked on the absolute weirdest synth geeky show ever, and right now we're in the pre-show mode, which means we're just testing stuff out, and we're waiting on another guest to jump in. He's there, but he hasn't turned up yet. But he said he's coming. Either that or he's breathing heavy. One of the two. Oh, just a bad joke, that one, isn't it? What has everyone been up to? Lockdowns and writing music, putting up with kids at home, all sorts of stuff. Cool, we've got...
dealing with snow.
Oh, we got... Geez, I just spoke to... It feels like I only just spoke to Will the other day. Not the other day, today. Because for me it's today, because I actually watched his live stream in my time this morning, but it was his last night that he did it. So if you're wondering who Will is, that's I Will the Odd Pilot in the chat room. So big hello to you. Marcus was the first today. Marcus, good on you, mate. How's the weather in Greece right now? What's happening over there? And then it was you, Andy, you were next. And then Native VS, then D-Best, Inverted Popes. Big hello to IP, it's good to see you, mate. Who else we got? AZO Head was next, JX3D, big hello to you guys. And then I Will came in. We'll just say Will. Wayne Murray's jumped in after that. JP Page 2 was next. Inky was next. And then Mr. Mac, as we used to call him, now it's just Mac. Big hello to you, matey. Just Steve was next. How you going, Just Steve? And Future World Machines. Cool. Let us know, just because I'm using a wireless mic, and I have been using this for the last couple of days in my videos and stuff, but whenever you use a new mic, there's always things that just go weird with them. So I just need you guys to tell me if you think it sounds okay. If not, I can always switch back to good old trusty mic up here. Sounds great.
Sounds good to me.
Good. It does have a different sound. My voice, it's like listening to the radio, and then you've got, for years you listen to some DJ on the radio through AM, and then all of a sudden DAB comes out and it's digital, and then you're listening to the same DJ and you think, wow, this guy sounds so much different when it's clearer.
Like a different guy.
Like a different guy, yeah.
The frequency of the microphone is different. Whoa. Bring in the weapons.
Whoa. G'day, Mr. Human Error. Sasquatch is there as well. Wigoo's just jumped in. Big hello to Daniel. Okay.
Hello, Daniel.
Beef Man. Who's Beef Man? Who's got that nickname? Corrosive Abuser.
It's a good name as well.
Is it? Hello, Mr. Beef Man.
Cheers, Heineken for you, human. So it's just San Miguel, this. Cheap from the supermarket.
So for those who are looking at this person below
it's tradition.
Me,
sorry, Eddie.
This is Eddie, if you're wondering.
Me.
Eddie is below me. Eddie's new, so we have to treat him nice. And
No need. Just bring it on.
Beef is Wagyu. Oh, Beef Man. Oh, as in like Wagyu beef. I get it. It's like the Wagyu beef. Yeah, I've worked it out now.
Yeah.
And I've had Wagyu beef, and it doesn't taste any different to a normal beef. So work that out, right?
You heathen, Ramsey.
Unless you guys
beef producers all over the world throwing their cows at the screen.
There's a lot of hooves. No, yeah. Wagyu beef just doesn't really And maybe the beef in Australia is good anyway, so that's probably what it is. There's a finger, Mr. Ken's finger.
Yeah, Ken's wagging his finger.
He's being Mr. Conductor. I can hear you. Just quietly.
First violin's quieting down, please.
Ooh.
Wag you.
It could be WAG 00. I mean, you just don't know how people want to pronounce their names. Thumbs up? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you guys now.
Yeah, I can hear you too. I think you're okay.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I think you're good.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see if we need to come up a bit. Just give me a sentence. Like, say, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Any funny jokes? And yes, for everybody to know,
You other brothers can't deny.
All right, lyrics it is. Do you guys see that? Do you guys see that? Was that you that put that post up, Ken, about lyrics with songs with synth lyrics in it? Was that you that put that post up?
No, it wasn't me. I'm You have to bear with me just a little bit. I completely rerouted all my microphones in here because I've been doing some drum tracking. So like and I have presets saved, but unfortunately I didn't back them up right before I changed everything. So they're like older presets, and I'm like, oh man, that's right. I changed this, and this. Which, it's what I do.
I'm still setting things up here too. Like I've got a new mic on, and it's the Rode Wireless Go. It's actually quite good.
How do you like it?
Very, very good. Yeah. And in terms
What's the
for
latency
me,
like on it?
I mean, I can go. There's no latency at all that I can notice.
Really? Because that's always been my issue. I've got a bunch of like wireless lav mics, and I've always had issues with latency on them when I'm doing streaming or video or whatever. And it's just a nightmare for me. So yeah, if that's working well for you, I might invest in that.
I did a video when I did the unboxing during the week, and I had both mics on at the same time. So and when you heard me, it just sounded like I was talking in phase. It was just weird. So you could see there was no latency at all. You can also plug a lavalier into it too, if you want. And we tried that before. It just didn't sound quite as clear as this built-in mic. So I'll just leave the built-in mic on. Does the job.
Yeah, because I mean, so the built-in mic, I mean, it just makes it into a wireless lav, and then but you're saying you can also use it if you need to do something like that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, like if you're dancing about on the stage or something, you could put a lapel on, or an earpiece on, and put that on. Because these have got little belt clips on them, so you can chuck that on your belt. And also, that's what I love about this.
You have an idea of the price point?
I can't remember what I paid for it. Someone can Google it. Yeah, I can't remember what I paid for it. I think it was like, in Australian dollars, it was like $240. So maybe 180 US, somewhere around there. 150, 160 US. It's pretty cheap.
Okay. Hey, does my video look blocky to you, or is it okay?
I will see. Let's go to...
I'm just curious. I haven't been doing any videos or streaming or anything for a while because I've just been bogged down with work.
Considering right now that I'm streaming, all the bits are being used on the network. I think you look absolutely nice. And let's just quickly scroll through. Yep. Eddie looks good. And, well, I don't know about Andy.
Hi, Andrew.
We'll just have to put up with him.
I can. And Andrew, sorry about that.
Now,
yeah, sorry for being late. I thought the show was like an hour later, so I was.
Because you've got daylight savings, different things. Yeah, that
must be what it was.
For me, the time I stream doesn't change all year long because we don't have daylight savings where I live. So we never have to put our clocks forward or back, which is awesome. Because that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, there's been a push in the U.S. to get rid of it. And I really hope they do. Like, I really hope that goes away. So
yeah, because I mean,
I think
it's the
a
Dark
bunch
Ages
of
thing,
states actually have gotten rid of it. Like, I think California got rid of it recently, and I don't know. I'm in Delaware. They do everything slow out here, so.
Yep. Okay, so if we've had a few people join us and they're watching this thinking, what the hell are these guys talking about? This is really just us mucking around. The actual show starts in about 4 minutes time, so hang around. Grab yourself a drink, a coffee, tea, something a bit stronger if you need it. You might need something a bit stronger having to put up with us. But anyway, couple of minutes to go and we'll hit the magic button, we'll start the show. Right now we're just sort of settling in and getting everyone comfortable. I think this method works. I don't know, I've been doing this now for, what do you reckon, Andy, about a year, where we do the pre-show, and I think it works. I think it just gives everyone, it lets them calm their nerves a bit, and you know, by the time we start the show, everything's all rock and roll. I think you don't really ever completely calm your nerves.
I switched to half calf.
I've stopped drinking coffee. So I'm with you there, bro.
I'd noticed that as I get older, caffeine is affecting me more and more, which my wife is the opposite. Like she can hammer down some caffeine and be totally fine. And if I drink a cup of coffee at like 6 o'clock at night, I know for a fact I'm going to be up till 2, 3 in the morning, no doubt.
Right.
And it's just like I can feel it in my veins. Like I just feel weird. And I used to drink a ton of coffee, but yeah, now I'm down to half calf, and I'm like I'm drinking half calf right now, and I actually feel much better. Like it doesn't, because I love the taste of coffee, but I don't want to feel jittery and spazzed out. Plus, I have pretty severe ADD as it is, so caffeine doesn't help with that.
Yeah, and those sports drinks, not the sports drinks, the what do they call them?
Yeah.
Like
energy
Red
drinks
Bull,
and sports
energy
drinks.
Yeah. Red Bull and
the
those
only
things.
thing that I do with those is there's one called the Monster Rehab, and those are great for if you have a hangover.
Too many scotches.
That's a perfect hangover drink. I'm telling you, man. That's like my lifeblood if I screwed up and drank too much.
Or
if I stayed up too late.
It's been a while since I've had a hangover, but usually my remedy for a hangover is just to keep drinking when you wake up in the morning.
Hey, the topic list, was that primarily about speculating about what's coming out in the future?
Yeah. So predictions, rumours, which are good, always good if you've got any, and desires would be more of a personal thing, like what would you like someone to bring out if we need to go there.
I try to stay away from rumors because I tend to know I tend to know too much, so I stay away from the rumor side of things, but everything else, yeah, like I've got plenty of speculations.
The thing with me is I'm allowed to say rumors, but when I do, the people that have told me them get pissed off with me, so I have to kind of be quiet.
Well, that's the thing is like, yeah, I'm very much like, I'm aware of like, NDAs, and even when I'm not under a strict NDA, I still kind of, I just tend to treat that stuff with care,
Yeah. All right,
but that's, it's fine.
I've forgotten to change the ticker underneath here, but let's change to here. And that stopped playing for some weird reason, but it doesn't matter. Hi everyone, welcome to another Saturday, and we crept into a few weeks into 2021 already, and it just kind of feels the same as 2020 so far. We were all hoping, weren't we, that something magical was going to happen. I don't know. In the US, I guess they've got a new president, so there's probably a new change there. Where I live, nothing's really changed. It's all kind of still just plodding along as normal. Hopefully where you live, things are on the up, trying to improve. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Anyway, let's get into the show. We are talking about synth geekery, and so everything to do with synthesizers, drum machines, sequences, all that sort of stuff, music technology. Hopefully we can interest you in the next hour or so. We've got a topic this week which is 2021 predictions, rumours, we all love rumours, and desires. Desires will be your own desires. And I'm not talking about anything naughty there. I'm talking about desires of what you would like as a synth manufacturer or a music maker to make for you, or maybe you've been wanting it for years and you're just scratching your head as to why they haven't made it yet. So we can talk about all that in a minute, but before we do, I'd like to introduce all of our guests. Now I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to go with Andy first. Hello, Mr. Brooks. How was your week?
Hello, my week. Very, very strange. Quite frustrating in many different ways. But I've got my first module, my first Eurorack module. I'm not counting the Pro one up here. Has actually landed. Okay, it's here. There it is.
Ooh.
Ta-da! Oops, which that way? That way. Which way am I going? There you go. Anyway,
it's a Behringer one.
It says on the box, System 100 122 dual VCO, but it's not a dual VCO. It's actually
a dual VCF.
It's not a. It is actually, yes, Ramsey, you've just spoilt me. It's the VCF module. There you go.
Yeah.
It's the dual VCF module.
I actually didn't know. I didn't know that.
That
was a guess.
That was sent to me as a little starter present by Jamie Morden of Geosynths. So Jamie Geosynths sent that to me, and I was almost in tears, thinking, someone so generous and so selfless has done that just to get me started. Unfortunately, nothing else has arrived yet because of UPS. I've got a couple of things due to arrive, as you know, but they still haven't landed. So I've got my case over there, which is empty, and one module sitting here, waiting just to be installed. But I'm getting slightly on pins about it. So I'm going to give a big public, massive thank you to Jamie G.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome, Jamie.
Love you, man. You're a star.
Well done, Jamie.
I'd say I'll buy him a beer, but he doesn't drink anymore. So I'll buy him a Coke.
Buy him a meal. Buy him a meal or something. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really good news. Yeah. I mean, the filters are always probably the best module to start with because you always whack something through it, can't you? So it's a good start.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, moving on. We've got a newbie this week. Big hello to you, Eddie, and thanks for joining us. Now, Eddie, introduce yourself. Tell us how your week's been, and we'll leave it up to you from there.
Hello. Yeah, the name is Eddie. Spanish of origin, but I'm living in UK for the last 7 years. Very happy. I love the country. Very similar weather to where my family's from. And my week is no news because I'm an essential worker, so I work as regular, and no new gear. So sorry about that.
Oh, you don't have to have gear. I mean, have you been making music or anything like that? What's been happening during the week for you that way?
Sadly, my week schedule is a little tight, so no. Good thing is I do 40 hours in 4 days, so I got my Fridays are made for music. And yes, I spent the whole of yesterday learning all of the gear I acquired in the last months, all of them used gear, because that's the price range I can afford. And I'm learning to love the Yamaha FB01 FM synthesizer, and I was developing a whole track with it, with the limitations that it has. For everybody who doesn't know, which might be just me, it's an 8-voice, 8-note polyphony synthesizer, so you can have 8 different sounds playing one single note, which is kind of interesting to deal with.
That is cool. Nothing like limitations anyway. All right, well, moving right along. It's nice to meet you and nice to have you on the show, so well done for volunteering. We'll go across to Big Ken in the US. How's your week been? Hello to you. Been a little while since you've been on?
Yeah. It's just been very, very busy. I'm just working. Like, I don't know how anything's been because I've just been working. Just very happy to put 2020 behind us, and honestly 2019 behind us as well. But as far as I can distance from 2019, I will. That was a worse year for my family than 2020 even. So I'm just excited to get into the topics. I love these kinds of topics. So
cool. Good, good. Well, I'll take credit for that. I made that one up. Got to give yourself credit at some stage. All right, so let's get stuck into it. So what do we do during these shows? Well, we do regular segments, and of course, the first one is a really bad attempt at humour, maybe. And yes, at the end of the internet are these crazy things called memes. And yeah, I don't know. He doesn't want to be disturbed. He's in there working on something with his piano machines. He's so creative. Next thing you know,
every night before bed.
He's the guy. He's the guy that brings the bouquet of flowers in every time he brings a synth through the front door, isn't he? He's that guy.
SH09 for $499. That's not bad.
Yeah, I'd grab that. But he's the highest bidder on the Yamaha CS30, so he's doing well. All right, moving right along.
It's also shipping from Japan, so you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, the $6,000
shipping charges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Remember concerts? Actually, this is not a concert. This is a rug underneath a coffee table.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That is really good, isn't it? I love that.
Whoa.
Oh, that's tickled me. That has.
That is really. People are like watching this on YouTube right now, going, "What? What's he saying? Oh my God! Yes, it is." That's exactly what I did when I saw it. All right, moving right along. Where you got this one? Oh, this is a beauty, this one. So here's the 40-year-old producer showing off his synths. And there's the 19-year-old girl waiting for a free Coke bump. Oh, I love that. That is the best. Where do they come up with these? If you don't get it, then I'm sorry. All right, what else we got? One more.
Okay, you're forgiven.
Ken will like this one. Bit of payback.
Yeah, I guess that's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah. This has got to happen, right? So has anyone worked this out? I think people in the chat have worked it out.
What? ACR30 sequencer controller. Oh, it says Arturia on it.
That's the Behringer.
No,
I feel like that's only. I feel like it's only a matter of time before somebody starts trolling them back, like troll the troll.
Yeah.
Rightly so. In some instances, if Arturia actually did that, that would be too funny. That would be great.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. I think that the whole synth world would be in applause for that one. All right. Okay. So how did we go this week with the memes? Were they pretty terrible? What was your favourite?
They were good. They were good. Yeah, human. The penny dropped. It took a while though, didn't it? A bit slow on the uptake there today.
Yeah, absolutely. Now
next week you have to flip the gender roles on them so that it's the male is waiting for that Coke bump. Because that's been more my experience in every studio I go to. I'm just like, I walk in and there's guys like half strung out and you're just like, oh, that's what kind of session this is. All right, I'm out.
Yeah. Or they find the buchla and see if they can scratch that LSD spot off. No.
Oh God.
I should mention the meme about the wife who had absolutely no idea what her husband was doing. I think was sent in by JX3D. So big thanks to him. And yeah, we keep moving on. We've got next segment to go, which is the news. Yes, there's news this week. Yay! I like it when there's news. Lots of news this week. Lots of news. Starting with this one. Now, we do rubbish this company at times, and it's not a bad thing. But I sometimes think they are doing a good thing when they're bringing some of this fantastic technology back to the real world to be able to buy, because these things are very, very expensive and rare. If you're wondering what this is a Behringer prototype of the VCS3, which is the original made by EMS in the UK. Now, what I thought I'd do is just quickly, I think we can press a button here. One of Nick's videos. Have a bit of a look. Got a real one, of course. And it starts getting into, if you want to check that video, it's on the Sonic State website and also the Sonic State YouTube channel. But what I thought was interesting is I had a little bit of a play on Photoshop today, and I thought, let's put them next to each other, because this is probably one of the things that we all wanted to do, is see what was different. There's a few things different that I can notice, a few extra knobs on the Behringer model. But I guess what is kind of cool is they have really done a good job in trying to sort of recreate this as close to the original as possible. You know, even that little pin mod matrix, they're actually quite hard to make apparently, so electronically. So that's really cool. I do like the colours of the knobs. Some people may not. I actually do. I think they look really cool. Now, what else can I tell you about this? It is probably going to be available for us all to purchase this year. Now, that is the big thing. That's what Behringer are saying. So we may have VCS3s in our studios this year at an affordable price. All right, quick comment about that, gentlemen.
I got a big fat comment.
I want it now.
All right,
I want it now. I wanted one all my life.
Let's go with Ken's big fat comment first.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna say. Okay, I'm actually all for clones. So before I get into this, I'm just gonna say, like, I'm for clones. I think that they're fine. I think that it's been going on forever. However, I have to point this out. You say that you're excited for them to bring this back, right? Is that what the excitement is?
Yeah.
Bring it back from where?
Bring it back so that we can access it like it's not accessible.
These are still in production by the original company. Like, they're not, like, is there a way for me to share my screen? Matter of fact, I'll shoot you this link right now. You can buy these new from the original company right now. Let me open up the chat window. I'll pop this over to you. So EMS synthesizers is still a thing. It's not like this is, oh, you know, these don't exist. They do exist. They're expensive. They still exist. So I find it odd that it's literally like a one-to-one recreation of a product that is currently in production. That I just find that very strange. Now, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's a very cool synthesizer. If you've ever used one, they're a conundrum. It's a confusing synthesizer. Part of my modular is, you know, based around this sort of system. So it's, you know, these are not cheap. But at the same time, that's, you know, my point is just that it's not that, like, a lot of people think that these things were completely gone, and they're not. Like, you can still get these. They're, you know, you can still purchase them from the original company. So that just, no, and Wagyu points out that he didn't design the synth. You're absolutely correct, but, you know, it's his company at this point. So it's just an interesting thing that they're choosing to reproduce something that's currently in production and do it in a way that's so similarly formatted. You know, usually when they were doing this kind of stuff before, they were changing the format. So like the Model D, they did it in a small, you know, a small enclosure, and it was Eurorack sized. And then when they did do the full size, it had different functionality than a Model D, you know, when they did the Poly D. And it sounded quite a good bit different too. Like, I don't know if you've had to lay hands on a Poly D, but they don't sound like a Model D in my opinion. They, like, the gain staging is completely different, and just how it functions is different, plus the effects. So I thought it was really interesting that this is a thing. Now, we did see this in the leak that they had, what was it, like 2-3 years ago? So we kind of all knew that it was on the table. But yeah, I mean, I can't lie. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm very curious to hear one in person. I very much want to hear one, but I just had to point that out because I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, like bringing it back and blah blah blah." I'm like, yeah, but it's not gone.
Well,
they're hard to come by. They're exclusive. You know, all that. But
that's where I think we're coming from.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. So look, I think when we say we're bringing it back, maybe we're not using the right term, but making it more sort of more available to more people, because you know that you're not going to be able to afford the EMS price, because I do know they sell them for I think it's like £4,000 or £5,000. I can't remember exactly. Someone in the chat will tell us, but it's a lot of money for a VCS3, and not saying that it's right or wrong to charge that, but we know.
And not to say that I think that this is going to completely damage like the EMS business. Aside from confusion over like how like, and this is speculation, but let's say that the Behringer one doesn't sound like the true EMS one, right? Let's just speculate on this and say, okay, there's some differences here, build quality differences, or whatever it is, right? The only issue that I really see there is because I don't see them like somebody who's going to buy a real EMS, you know, is not going to be the same customer, or buying one at, let's just, you know, spitball off of what we know from their other releases. Let's say this comes out at $600, right? The person who's going to buy a you know, $6,000 synthy, is probably going to buy both. Like they're like $600 is going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll have them both. Why not?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to damage that business in that way, aside from public perception and that sort of thing, of people thinking, oh, well, this is exactly how this product sounds, and if it's not how that product sounds, well, then that would be unfortunate for EMS, you know. But aside from that, yeah, I don't think like it's going to bury his business or anything like that.
Yeah. So the other issue with the current system with EMS is, I believe there's really, like we actually mentioned it in the chat, there's actually really, really long waiting lists. And in fact, I actually think if I was to go back through my emails, I reckon I could find an email that I've sent them, and I reckon it would be like 2014, and I haven't heard anything back since. So what are we talking about? 6-7 years that I've sent them an email saying, yep, I will definitely get one of these, and I haven't heard anything back. So that's yeah. So to me, there's people making stuff in their garage, and you know, fair enough. I understand what you're saying, Ken, but there's also getting a product that's a little bit easier to get. That's what I meant by that. So 6-7 year waiting list is not really
I hadn't realised that they were still in production. I hadn't realised that the EMS was still around. I just assumed that they'd gone the way of all flesh years ago. And I know that David Zinoviev was still around, and I think David Zinoviev is still alive. I think he's still with us, the original sort of man behind the VCS3. But I didn't know that the company was still functioning, which does put a slightly different bent on it. You're right about that, Ken. Again makes it slightly a bit of moral discomfort. Is this the right thing to do when actually they're still making them? It's always a conundrum. I mean, but as I said earlier, I mean, I've lusted after one of these really for as long as I've been into synths, but never ever been able to come close to owning one. They've always maintained a high price tag, always. So yeah. I've never been in the market, but you know, if Behringer can come out with one of these, you know, sub £1,000, sub $1,000 or whatever, I would absolutely be in the queue to buy one. I would be there, because I'm very poor.
Look, I've just had a quick search on my emails, and good old Gmail keeps all my emails. October 2015, Robin Wood emailed me saying that the 2015 price for an unmodified instrument is 4,250 British pounds, excluding VAT if applicable. And
sounds like a deal.
Yeah, and then he said there's a really big long waiting list. In due course, we'll be announcing who, you know. There's a whole big spiel about why there's a waiting list, and that was October 2015. I haven't heard anything back since. I mean, obviously, I could have chased him up if it was, you know, really, really important to me. But then again, you know, so that was way back then. So yeah, I don't know. It's people. I'm sure people have been getting them from him. So it's not like, you know. he doesn't do any.
Yeah. I just had to bring that up, like, just because, what really surprised me is like the form factor and the fact that it says VCS3 right on it. Like, I was like, wow, like, okay, that's bold.
Well, I mean, let's go back to this. I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say that that's not,
I mean, one thing they could have done,
or whatever,
they could have put the mod matrix on the right and the joystick on the left. Do you know what I mean? Like, they could have made some subtle changes.
Have you ever used like any of the iOS apps or the VSTs of these?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Because I will say, like I've used one in person very shortly, for a short time, and it was more just to be like, oh, I can say that I did it, because it was like. You find like the original ones, and they go for like $25,000. Like, they're absurd.
Yeah, we've had them on the show before.
And so yeah, like I had used one. I'm trying to remember what event it was. It was at a synth event, and it was I got to kind of like tuck away and spend a little actual time on it, and man, it made me feel like a noob. Like, it made me feel like I had no idea what I was doing. And sometimes the app makes me feel the same way. There's a really great iOS app of it that I highly recommend everybody have if you're curious about a VCS, especially if you have an iPad Pro, because of the bigger screen, because it does kind of require a decent sized interface.
Yep.
But man, that is it is just such a quirky beast of a synthesizer. It's one of those things that will really send your head round a bend,
Yeah. So this is also interesting, Ken, while we're talking about it. There's been, obviously an image of the rear of this, and obviously the original wouldn't have had MIDI and USB, so there's a few changes there. But so they've obviously got some sort of logic processor in there, and I mean, the thing was kind of, you could get a keyboard controller for this as well. So, but it would have all been CV based controlling. So yeah, that's all. If you ever want to try and sort of find a better version of that photo, it's on the Behringer Facebook site. So, all right, we should probably move on because we have more. Sorry, Eddie, I didn't mean to miss you, but did you want to make a quick comment about that? No, you're good. All right, cool. Next one.
No, I'm fine.
No worries. Next one is the, this one. I really was quite surprised when this came out. Look, I'll be honest, I did know Roland were making something along the lines of this, because I got told to, watch this space when I asked them about were they making, something new. And I actually thought it was going to be a new sampler. That's what I thought it was going to be, because that was a conversation I was having with a few people in the know. And it's really not. This thing is called the Verselab MV1. It's a new battery-powered Zen Core Groovebox from Roland, aimed at being an all-portable workstation. It's a lot different to the MC707, which people may sort of think, oh, isn't this just really kind of another way of doing it? It's a lot different. The MC707 has the ability to go much deeper in synthesis, so there's your big difference. But instead, this is actually more aimed at being quick and inspiring. So it's got Roland have actually said that it's got a new workflow, which is new and simplified, and songwriting tools and generators to get you going. So that's kind of the whole purpose of this. It's more just to sit it on the lap while you're on the train, get some songwriting happening. Anyway, you can interface this with, obviously in the photo you can see there's an app that goes with this. It's called the Xils-labs app, and you can do it on your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer, of course. It's got a built-in mic and XLR input for vocal recording as well. Anyway, priced at $679 US, and there is a video. I think it's this one. So let's have a quick look at this. Oops.
We ain't really about no drama. We ain't really about no hype. We dancing on the windowsill. Yeah. We celebrated up on every level, get props from the guys and the devils. Dressing all black, like I'm about to go meta. You should know that I rock. I ain't talking about pebbles, I've been ready from the jump. Every day a slam dunk, keep my chakra on point. That's an elephant tusk, and I never give up. Yeah, I put that on my fam. Got a lot to live up, so I hope you understand. Yeah.
Yo, what's up? It's Zilly here from Black-a-Lack, and I'm here to show you.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, who wants to have the first comment about this one? What about you, Eddie? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen the product or the video, but the first thing that comes to my head, I think I remember on the previous shows, somebody commented that the concept of the Porter Studio, digital, analog, or any sort of, should come back. That to me looks like it.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
It's a whole DAW inside a single box.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
That's
a
what it
whole
looks
DAW.
like.
I don't know if it's a whole DAW, but it's definitely like a Porter Studio in that sense. Yeah, definitely a good point. Yeah. What's your thoughts on this, Andy? I mean, you just got yourself an MPC-1.
Yes. Well, they're definitely treading on the same territory, aren't they? Without a doubt. It's interesting. Native VS has just commented on the size of the display, and if anything, now maybe there'll be people that argue it doesn't need a big display. It doesn't need a big display. I mean, as soon as I see that, I just go, "Oh, crying out loud! What year are we in?" You know? Because I mean, the demos of this that I've heard, there's more than just that guy. There's been a few people out there putting their things up. There was a great one from Ave McCree. Actually, his was great, and he was very honest about the machine, and it sounds fantastic. Some of the particularly the synth sections of it sound great, but can't we have a bigger display, please?
Yeah.
Please?
Oh, geez, that was a massive.
I've got the MPC now, so I'm not going into any of that.
Yeah, well, you got a nice big display on that. There was a massive thread on one of the forums about display wars. It was serious. I think all the Electron people got in there first, wanted to make their point. I don't know. What about you, Ken? Do you have an opinion about the Verselab, the MV1?
It reminds me of the Roland SP808. Now this isn't really a sampler. But the SP808 was kind of the same idea in that it was a track recorder and a groove box in one. The thing that kind of shocked me just a little bit about this thing was that there's only one vocal on this. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of assumed that you could multi-track on it or double up your takes and that sort of thing, and you can't. So that was a little disappointing. But I like this for people who don't want to learn a DAW or don't want to not everybody wants to have a studio like this or can, have the means to do it, whatever. A lot of people just want to, make music, make sketches, do it quickly, do it without having to spend 3 years learning all the technical stuff when they've already, learned the musical side of things. They just want to, have a sketch pad to do it. And I think this is great for that. I just really wish it had more vocal tracks. That's my only real gripe with
Can I ask for a bit more clarity on that? So, Ken, you're just saying there's only the one track. Does it not actually have 8, or is it only 8? Is it 8 tracks in total? So sequencer tracks.
From what I understand,
drum tracks,
it's 8 tracks total.
And only one audio track.
Only one audio. That's from what I've understood. Now, if anybody can correct me on that, I'd be happy to hear it. But this is what I've come to understand with it. It's like, I think it's like, what is it, like 4 drum tracks, and then the other are melody.
Yeah, there's 4 drum tracks, and then the melody tracks.
It's vocal.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's the one vocal, and the vocal, it has like a doubler effect, but you can't do overdubs. You can't do any of that kind of stuff. Which is kind of crazy to me, because like we can look back at things like the Roland VS series, the VS series multi-track recorders, and like size wise you can get fairly small ones, but like I used to love those things, man. And you could even put you could put loops and stuff into those things as well, the later generation of those. So I'm kind of like, man, it's kind of cool for what it is, like just to get people started or whatever. But if you're somebody who's looking to, I still think something like an Akai Force is the way to go if you're trying to do that kind of stuff. I think a Force blows this thing out the water, but and a Force can be had on the used market for about the price of what this is used. But
it seems to fall short.
I mean, I don't think this is for the people that are really anything other than like beginners or people who are not, wanting to get into the technology side of things, which is fine. Like, we need products for all types of people,
If you watch the videos though, they're kind of, it's kind of that hip hop market though, really, that they were aiming at that. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I've been involved in like, hip hop classes and whatnot in the city where like, it's about teaching production and whatnot. Which I have different thoughts about what should and shouldn't be taught for that kind of thing also, but a lot of people just don't, like, they don't have the desire to want to learn this stuff. If they get to the point where they feel like, okay, my music is at this point, then they would rather just go to a producer or, go to somebody who's going to, do that stuff for them. And, I have this idea, I want to lay down my verse, and then I can take it to somebody else to kind of further that. And that's fine. That's not the way that I would go, but it's fine for people who do.
All right, so let's put a pin in this, and
can
maybe
I just make one more comment, if that's all right? Just a real quickie.
Just let me finish, and then I'll go to you. Let's put a pin in this, and then when we go to our predictions, we're gonna make a comment about what our predictions will be with this product in the future. Andy.
I just wanted to say about Ave McCree's video about this. The start of his video is killingly funny. Right, I recommend watching his video just for the start of it, where he has a protesting NPC live. It's actually really very, very good. Give it a watch and have a giggle.
All right. Dig up a link, Andy, and see if you can paste it into the chat room while they're...
I'll try.
All right, we're going to move on because there's more news. Now, this other bit of news, I actually really like this. I was really crossing my fingers and hoping that this would happen, and it did. And I was very, very happy to hear this. Why? Because I am a really, really big fan of desktop modules. Sorry, Eddie. I love desktop modules. The reason why I love desktop modules is because of the way I write my music. So I'm less of a person that would go out there on a stage and play a Prophet 5. I'd be more about a person that would be sitting and just twiddling with the knobs and sequencing it and all sorts of cool stuff in my studio. And I just love how compact they've got that Prophet 5. To me, this is really, really cool. Now, what's also cool about this is the price. It makes a Prophet 5 even more affordable now. I mean, they're pretty cheap when you think about it because they're just such a beautiful synth. They've got such a good legacy. $24.99 is for the 5 voice version, and $32.99 if you want to get. You can actually get the desktop Prophet 10 as well. Now, I believe Sequential have said they offer the same features and sounds as the keyboard versions. So, I guess the keyboard version is only going to offer that playing, the mod wheel and the keyboard and that side of it. But other than that, the layout is different. I know you can see, that's why I've shown this graphic, because you can see the knobs are in different spots. But generally speaking, it's all pretty similar. Some people have argued on forums that they didn't like the layout. Anyway, I did have a video of someone playing a Prophet 5. We can show that in a sec if you like. But just a quick comment about the desktop version. Now, Eddie, you had a bit of a comment before about modules, synth modules. So that's not Eddie, that's Eddie there. What do you think of this? Would you? I mean, I know you're into analog synths. Would this be something that you'd be interested in?
I would. If I could afford it, I definitely would. In fact, don't get me wrong, if I get to choose, I would go for the module version.
Yeah.
Because it looks very heavy. I don't know how heavy it is, but it looks very heavy and big. And I already have master keyboards and other keyboards that I would rather go and play them live just for the sake of the device.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, Andy also commented, I'm also very bored. So $3,000 on stage gives me the jitters. So I'd rather just bring 300 on any other module. And a master keyboard that if somebody spills the beer on it, it's just 100 quid, new one. Then being fearing for a very delicate analog synth that changes behavior just by the heat of the environment. If it does, I don't know if this sequential is the case, but I would go for the module so I can just tuck it away and use a master keyboard, a cheap master keyboard to trigger that. If I want to say, okay, I want to set this sequential sound live because it's the best, then I would definitely put the module away from the drinks, in a way of speaking.
Look, the I was just looking at the specs on the website. It does say that it doesn't actually show the weight; it just shows the size. They do say that it's in a roadworthy all-steel case with premium black walnut heartwood trim. So there would be, because it's got a metal, top for all the knobs and stuff, and the hardwood, it would be heavy, definitely. Now I know there's someone here that actually does have a Prophet 5, and that would be the young Ken there. Is that the Prophet 5?
Oh, I want to be young.
You're young, mate, compared to me, let me tell you.
Oh, man. Yeah, so...
Compared to me, too.
That's the Rev 4, so this is the new Prophet 5. And it was actually, just to clarify, because I'm poor, too.
Well,
I didn't pay for it. It was a gift for a project I worked on. So it was a very, very, very generous gift. That I was beside myself, to say the least. That being said, I will say that I wouldn't have bought a Prophet 5 for myself. Price point and for what it is, I wouldn't have done that because it's like so much money, right? That being said, having one now, I get it. And it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, like I have spent that money, but out on this, and I have to be very honest. One, the sound is legitimately amazing. Like, I really can't understate that enough, or overstate that enough. It's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those intangible things where it just sounds good all the damn time. No matter what I do to it, it just sounds fantastic. The other thing that I would say is that it feels really, really nice. When you're playing on it, when you're looking at it, I'm sure you can't really, I'm guessing that the stream is probably pixelated, but when you're right up on it, the wood is super beautiful. The Fatar keybed is a TP9S, I believe, and it's really, really nice to play. The knobs are huge. Everything on it is it's just a really luxurious experience playing on it. So with that all being said, I'm a little bit conflicted on the desktops because, again, I'm a cheap bastard. So I'm like, man, that's a lot of money for a desktop module. The sound is fantastic, but I have to admit, a lot of what I really like about this thing is the form factor and the luxury of the wood and the big knobs and all that. On that desktop module, they've clearly used smaller knobs, smaller buttons. It's a different form factor in that desktop module. If you're just going for the sound and the actual layout, it's fine because it does do the layout in the correct order and all that, which is great. I do think you miss a little something, but it comes to that thing where one of the things about an analog polysynth, I feel like is let me correct something real quick. When I say poor, I'm saying that jokingly. That's sarcasm, okay? Please don't take that as oh my god, he's first world problems. No, I'm very fortunate. So, but my studio is, the majority of it is literally gear from projects that I've worked on, not things that I've actually purchased, because I don't have that much fluid cash to do that. I have a family, you know. I got 5. So, but no, like just that sound is so wonderful. But I find that on a polysynth, an analog polysynth, if it sounds really good, if it's voiced very well, you don't need to do a lot, right? So you don't need a ton of LFOs. You don't need a ton of crazy modulation. Is it nice to have that stuff? Absolutely. I use all that crazy modulation in my Matrix Brute, and you know, it's really nice when you have those sorts of things. But a lot of the times when I'm going to use the Prophet 5, I'm using the Prophet 5 because I want that basic, just vintage analog polysynth sound, which means I don't want to go insane with the sound design on it. I just want it to sit in the mix and sound sexy. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know. The big thing about the desktop module that has me excited is I'm really hoping that means that they also release the voice cards individually, like they did for the Rev 2, so that if you want to upgrade from a 5 to a 10, you could do that. Because I've seen inside of the 10, and it's just a stacked board on there. So there's no reason why they couldn't do that if they chose to.
Interesting. Fantastic.
That was my rant. Sorry.
That's okay. We need to keep going because there's more. 1, 2, 3, 4, bang. This one. So this snuck out during the week as well. This is by Akai Multimedia, and this is the another analog. It's called the Uno Synth Pro. They've actually, what I like about this particular release is they've actually brought 2 synths out that are pretty much the same synth, except for the fact that there's 2 form factors. So it's a bit like what Modal did with the Argon and the Cobalt. But in this case, you've actually got kind of 2 fairly compact synths. One with a proper Fatar keyboard and aftertouch, 37 keys, stage ready they call it. And the other one is what they call a portable 32 capacitive key tabletop edition, and it can be powered by one of those USB bricks. So, what can we quickly show? I guess a video on this one. Do I have a video ready? I think I do. Got to try and find it. There it is. Let's play this for a sec. So all the sounds you're hearing in this video, except for the drums, are coming out of the Uno Synth Pro. Uno. I never know how to pronounce these things. Anyway, both synths offer a paraphonic dual filter analog sound engine with 16-slot mod matrix and FX engine. There are 3 discrete wave morphing oscillators offering PWM, sync, FM and ring mod, dual state variable filter with 24 modes, plus the new SSI based filter with self-oscillation. Need to put a little note next to that. I want to find out more about what they mean by SSI based. 256 edible user presets, 3 FX slots with 12 options, 64-step sequencer with arpeggiator in 10 modes, USB CV gate MIDI I/O, plus it also has an audio input that, which I actually really like. The audio input on this means it can actually go through the filter and through the FX, or just pass through. And there's a lot of synth people that make synths and then they have audio inputs and they don't let it do that. And I think that is actually a plus for this synth. Right, gentlemen, who wants to go first to talk about this? $649 US for the keyboard, the Fatar keyboard version, and $399 for the tabletop. You can buy them now-ish. They're available for pre-order now. Andy, do you want to go first?
I think it sounds great. Yeah, I think it sounds lovely. At least that demo had one sound which sounded lovely. I think that was mentioned in Sonic State earlier in the week, that it would have been nice if they'd showed it off a bit more in terms of its sonic variety. It tweaks and evolves nicely, and it does sound fantastic. And I can't help but think that the price is a little high, though. It looks great. It sounds great. It's coming into a very, very crowded marketplace. But it might just tick the boxes for some people.
Do you think this is Akai Multimedia trying to break into a little bit more serious products? Maybe it's their attempt.
I think so. It reminded me of the JDXi in the sort of look. And I suppose it's also in terms of price. Obviously, I think the keyboard has a full. Are they mini keys or are they full size keys?
No, they're full guitar keys. Yep, full size. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a plus. Well, yeah, I think it's great. I mean, the little IK synth thing. I forgot the name of it now. The
Uno.
That's
the Uno.
Great. Yeah, that's right. I had a play with that at Synthfest. It seems like years ago now. Synthfest. I've mentioned it twice, haven't I? But the Synthfest 2019, I had a play on it, and thought it sounded great. It's a bit fiddly to use with its matrix, but no more so than the Microkorg or the synths that have a similar thing, like the Waldorf machines. So, yeah, I think it should do well.
Okay. Anyone else want to make a quick comment about the Akai Multimedia Uno Pro?
I'd like to hear Eddie's thoughts.
Yeah, Eddie, still in the market for yeah.
Well,
go for it.
First of all, needless to say, I'm a totally noob in synthesizers. I don't know anything. I'm just learning day by day. I don't think the non-keyboard one is expensive if you compare to other.
Just pause there for a sec, Eddie. Your mic's gone a bit weird. I don't know what happened just then. We kind of. Oh, that's back. There we go.
Is a boom stand.
It sounded like your cable might have gotten funky or something.
Yeah. All right, just repeat that last bit.
Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
You're good.
Yep,
I'm
that's
back.
good.
Good. So, you know way more than I do. Talking about the non-keyboard, the non-fatter keyboard one, I think you said something around $300 something.
$399 for the tabletop version. Yep.
What else is on the market on the same price that can do the same amount of things?
It's crowded.
That's where I'm heading with this.
It's crowded
because there's a lot.
Yeah. A lot. So
yeah.
Would you call it expensive or just market priced?
Well, expensive is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, true. But what I'll say is when we start looking at competition, right? You got to look at, all right, so we'll kind of work backwards here, right? My initial knee-jerk reaction is I'd rather have a base station 2, right? And then I was of the mindset thinking base station 2 is about that price, right? And then I went and looked, and no, base station 2 is about $200 less. Now, yeah, they're different form factors, and it's, different things are going to interest different people in different ways, and that's fine. But at $649, I believe you can also get the Mini Brute 2S or a Mini Brute 2 keyboard. Now, that's not going to save presets, whereas this does. So that's why I went more towards the base station when I was comparing. And then when we talk about the smaller synth, the smaller one is still really closely priced to what a base station 2 is. I think a base station 2 is like $450. So we're talking like for $50 more, you could have a base station 2 as opposed to the smaller Uno. So that's a really, I would struggle about that. Then you could look at other desktop synthesizers. You've got, let me pull this up real quick. You've got the Modal Argon 8.
Yeah,
right?
There we go.
And Cobalt. They're not that much more. We're getting a little bit up there in price, but the desktop version,
about £400. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're right there. What else? What is the Minilog XD? There's you know, all the different brute ranges, all the different Korg stuff, and then you've got the Roland stuff at the lower price points as well. So that's the price point that they're at is a crowded price point, in my opinion. It's a good price point where like a lot of gear sells at that price, but if you're going to be at that price, you better have something really interesting. And you know, I'm just going off of the demos that I saw because I did watch some demos on it, and while I wouldn't say that it sounded bad, nothing on it jumped out to me. Nothing about it really kind of like made me like, oh, really sit up and take notice. And I personally just don't like their UI.
Thank you.
It just,
I'm glad you said that.
I feel like it looks very cheap to me.
Yeah. So let's bring that up, Ken, because I'll keep you there, Ken, but I just want to bring the graphic back because it does show the UI a little bit in this graphic. It's very lacking in knob per function. Like you were comparing it to the base station, right?
Yeah.
How many knobs and sliders, and I mean even the base station's got a little bit of function, sort of shift functions on it, but that's only because it's so featured in that sense. This is going to be interesting, like the way you're going to be programming. Some people like this though. Let's not detract that from people.
I don't like. That's the other thing is I don't like that whole like 4 knobs and you have a grid that steps down like that. Like I tend to not like that.
It's a bit like the micro Korg sort of theory, isn't it? That one. It was kind of, they were kind of the first to do that.
What was it? Was it the Plugiator or whatever it was that did that? And then there was some Waldorf stuff that did that. And
the Blofeld.
Dave Smith. Like I want to say it was like the Evolver desktop or whatever did that.
The Tetra.
Yeah.
The Tetra, yeah. So like, I don't personally love that layout of it. But I also don't. I just don't like the look, like the actual design of the knobs, like the actual look of it to me. Like the bigger one with that, the way that keybed is, it reminds me of the Samson MIDI keyboards, and that doesn't bring like a confident vibe to me. It's like very, you know, and I'm not trying to like, I don't like crapping on other people's products, but I don't know. For me, it just didn't make me excited, unfortunately. Because I love all synths. So.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
Does it even have a screen?
I think it's like a little digital like LED thing or something.
Because it doesn't look like. I don't see any.
I think in between those 2 knobs on the left and then the 4 in the middle. Or no, I'm sorry, the 4 in the middle and then there's like that little... No, I guess that's a play button. So
Let me see if I can get a better one for you.
I think it does, though.
I'll get a better graphic for you.
While we did.
Sorry, let me just...
But maybe not.
Let me go to us while I'm getting a better graphic for you.
Okay.
Just,
to me, it looks like
just whistle to
LEDs,
yourselves.
dots, indicators of matrix, but nothing really telling you information or menus or anything.
There is a tiny little OLED display. Yep, I'm going to grab it for you now.
Okay.
There is a tiny little OLED display, and it's off to the right, almost far right hand side. Oh God, trying to do stuff way in the middle of the stream like this is hard. Did I ever tell you that? Okay,
yes.
This is probably not the best graphic because I've just screen captured it off their website, but you can actually see it on the. So see where that.
Oh my God!
See the little OLED display up the top, in between on the right hand side.
Than the Korg one?
It's tiny. It's tiny. Yeah.
Okay, I'm off. No, don't count on me.
Doesn't it look like the Samson MIDI keyboards though?
It does
like,
a bit.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it does.
Like that jumped to my mind like right away. I was like, did they just like shove this thing into that housing? And I have to go back and like look at the Samson keyboard that I'm referring to because I haven't seen one of those things in ages. But for whatever reason, I have the worst memory in the world, but like synthesizers burn into my brain.
All right. Now there was
we'll have one of those.
There was one other bit of news, and we don't really have any videos or anything for it. And that was really just people were keeping their eyes out on companies registering trademarks and stuff like this. So Sequential have registered OBX now, and then everyone's propellers are spinning on their caps. You know, whoa, what's going to happen? They're going to reissue an OBX. Look, it's worth our propellers spinning and having a little chat about it. I think, would it be a bad thing? I don't think so. I think OBX was probably one of the best Oberheims. I'm not going to say some of the others aren't. I just think it's probably one of the better ones. I don't know. What do you guys think about that potential rumor? Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Like, I can't recall ever having sat and played with one. Maybe I have, but certainly not enough to say that I know it. But I know that there's the OBX and the OBXA.
Yep.
And then, I know they had like the 4-voice and 8-voice and all that good stuff. This one was chip based, right? Like I'm pretty sure this one had SEM oscillators, and I don't remember which chips were used for the filters, but I'm pretty sure like this was discrete, right?
You're probably asking the wrong person. Let me just see if I can find out quickly.
I was just curious if anybody else in here knew it, and I'm sure they know in the chat here. So I'll watch the chat.
Sure.
I would say that okay, so Native VS says the only chips were the SEM envelopes. Okay, so it's discrete oscillators and discrete filters. Yeah, so that's interesting to me. The Pro 2 that they did and the Prophet 6 are, and I guess the OB6 are all discrete that they did. The filters and oscillators in those are discrete. Now the Prophet 5 that they did is using the SEM oscillators, and then it uses SEM chip and SSI chip.
SSI filters, yeah.
Yeah. So, like it just like the discrete stuff kind of interests me pretty heavily, just because it's like like this is like it's just I don't know, it's just
it's
a
circuits.
Thing.
Yeah.
It's an allure. Like I'm not going to say that it's a tangible thing, but it's a thing. I kind of get the vibe that the Prophet 5 was done less about Dave Smith necessarily wanting to do a Prophet 5 again, and more that like, okay, the chips were there, he knew he could do it, and he knew he could kind of stick it to somebody else by making sure that he protected his IP. And I don't necessarily think that this is any different from that, and that's not a bad thing. Like I think it's kind of cool. I know that him and Tom Oberheim are good friends, and if anybody's gonna do it, it's cool that it's them.
I think Tom Oberheim was closely involved with the OB6. I mean, it bears his name. And I would hope that if Sequential are going to bring back the OBX, that will also be in conjunction with Tom Oberheim. I can't see that it wouldn't be. I hope so, because I think these sorts of machines, legacy machines, if you like, I think they deserve that, and I hope that Sequential managed to do it for the right reasons, because there'll be demand for it. Just as there's been demand for the Prophet 5 and the Prophet 10, there'll be demand for this, certainly.
Yeah. Just quickly reading the Vintage Synth Explorer or whatever it's called website, it says a little update thing known down the bottom. It says, it should be noted that the major difference between the OBX and its descendants is that the OBX has an Oberheim SEM filter, while the subsequent OB synthesizers have Curtis ladder filters, which sometimes subtly completely different sound.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
See, I thought they were chip based. I thought they were. So yeah, I'll have to look into that a little bit more, because like I like kind of nerding out over the different filter chips and that kind of stuff, just to kind of get to know them. And I will say, not every filter sounds the same just because it's the same chip. Like how people use them in the circuits does change that stuff. So like I've got the Matrix 1000. And the Oberheim Matrix 1000 has a chip in it that's extremely similar to the modern chips that were used by DSI, SEM chips, right? Like that's supposed to be basically kind of like the same topology and everything. And I gotta say, like the Matrix 1000 does not sound like a Prophet 08. Like they don't sound the same to me at all. So just and also I've got what is it, the Tempest, and I've got a couple other things that use the same SEM chip, and they don't sound the same. Like
so
they have
a lot of that can be
vibe
to do with op amps and gain staging and all sorts of stuff in there. Anyway, Eddie had a question, I think. He put his hand up anyway.
Do we have time for an extremely noob question?
Sure.
What is a ladder filter?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question. Who wants to answer that one?
Well,
anybody want to answer it? Because,
like,
I've been talking a lot. I don't want to be rude.
It's
basically
Andy's turn.
On the back of the original sort of, there's a really good video out there about how they made the mini Moog and how it differs from revision to revision. But basically, the filter, the resistors are placed one above the other, so it looks like one resistor gives you 6 decibels, 2 resistors gives you 12 and 18 and 24. They have 4 resistors, one above the other, so it looks like a ladder.
Yeah,
transistors. Thank you, transistors. I get my electronic terminology. Well, they look like a ladder, so that's why it's got the name ladder filter. I learned that from that video, so it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could find it.
I think you explained it well.
How the mini Moog changed.
It's just the way the circuit's designed.
Okay, good. Because I've been trying to find the answer, and nobody was able. I haven't found the right video, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, if you search for like ladder filter stuff, you'll just get a whole bunch of electronic engineering drawings and people talking engineer speak, and you'll be like, exactly.
Not much. I mean, basic analog electronics, I can more or less understand. When I get losses with the digital and the chips.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, guys.
So Eddie, if you search for the video on Mini Moog and its revisions or something like that, you should be able to find it in there. It's quite a long video, about 40 minutes. But there's a fella talks about how they built them and how they changed. It's a while since I saw it, but it's a good one and it's very informative actually.
All right, we got to push on, guys.
And
there's more to go. Come on, we got to push on. Sorry. And look what you've done, Ken? You've made the video pause. What is it doing?
I do that.
It's been doing that lately, hasn't it? There's glitches in the system, people. We've got some price watch to look at, and like I say every week, I get surprised at the fact that there's always something for me to show on the show. It's insane. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at a brand new Korg ARP 2600 full-size semi-modular synthesizer. Why am I showing this on Price Watch? Well, you can't buy them anymore from Korg because they've stopped making them. You can't order them from them. They'll tell you to go away. So this is kind of me just saying, well, someone's bought one and now they're selling it without it being unboxed. So they're saying it's brand new for a lot more than what you could originally buy it for from Korg. That sort of thing kind of annoys me. Anyway, I'm not going to say too much about it, but I thought just this sort of stuff that's going on out there, it kind of annoys me. So that's why it's in Price Watch. We'll have a comment about that.
It's from bloody Margate.
We'll have a comment about that in a sec. Next one I've got is this. Now this one was sent in to me from Sai. He should be in the chat. Fantastic, grab this one.
14 bits.
Wow, 41,000 Australian dollars. So half that, 20-ish thousand pounds for a Jupiter 8. This is getting stupid. Do you know what I mean? This is stupid. Like, Ken, you wouldn't even think about spending 20 grand. What would it be more than that? It'd be like 30 US, 30,000. That's just stupid for a synthesizer. So that's why that's on
Even
here.
if I was absurd rich, like, I wouldn't do it just on principle.
Yeah. Like, you'd rather spend the money
I'd just be like, no.
On PlayStation games or something. Like
I would literally pay an engineer to recreate one from scratch for that.
You would have change out of that. Seriously.
That's absurd.
That is getting just stupid.
Thank you. And maybe if there was like some sort of like cultural significance, like if it was like, used by somebody very specific at a very specific point in time, maybe. But even then, like for me, nah. Like I can't think of like I could see maybe if it was like the CS80 that was actually used on the Blade Runner soundtrack, then maybe, you know what I mean?
Whoa.
Because
I'd go higher than that.
more a collector's.
That would go
You know
higher
what I mean?
than
Because
that.
that's
Yeah.
like an actual collector's piece.
Yeah.
But like if you're just talking about a vintage synth like that, then I'm just like, yeah, I no.
Yeah. All right. So
Who didn't use a Jupiter 8?
sorry.
Who didn't use a Jupiter 8 back in the day?
Who used them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Who didn't?
How-
They were all over.
Howard Jones. Heaps of people. Howard Jones is probably the most famous one.
OMD,
Yeah.
Just replying
Duran
to
Duran.
Ken's comment. I mean, exactly. I mean,
Oh, just get a Roland System 8.
They were everywhere. Prince, they were everywhere.
A Roland System 8 will do just a good in the
Yeah,
mix.
but I'm saying like it would need to be the exact instrument used on an album that
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah, we
touched
got-
my life.
we
know?
got you. Yeah.
You're right. Yes, the price is off the scale. But
Yeah.
if you have to pay extra penny for one synth, Jupiter 8 is one in the list, isn't it?
Well,
Sound-wise
it's
and
always
Yeah.
it's always asked for a higher price. That's for sure. Even when it was new, it did. But
What do they regularly go for though? Like in like the 10 gram range for like a nice specimen though, right?
it's been more lately.
Like
But
8 to
been
10,
creeping
right?
up.
yeah, I've just
It's
got
been
this
creeping
feeling
up.
that there's a bit of a sell-off happening with a lot of these, really sort of higher-end poly analog synths because I think they've got this Behringer fear factor happening about them.
I don't think that affects it at all.
I
really
know
don't.
it doesn't.
Like, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. I've
Yeah,
proven
but-
it. Yeah, I've proven it
But
on this
I
channel.
will say that I and this is like the most ugly thing I'm gonna say for a minute, but I'm gonna say it. I think that what you're gonna see is the price is gonna get really interesting as like boomers start to die, like as boomers get old. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but I'm just saying. So
No.
the gear that makes the music from when you were aged 13 to like 19, right? As you get to the age in your life where you have disposable income, that gear jumps and skyrockets in price because people will buy that stuff. What will happen is you will see a trail off of that as, that goes out of spectrum. When people start retiring and they don't have disposable income in that way, you're going to see the music gear that was made during those lives, right, is going to fall in price for a while. It might go back up because of rarity after that, but there will be a big dip. I thoroughly believe there will be, and because analog, like we got through the 90s, and the 90s was like these digital synths, and the ones that were analog had like no controls on them, that sort of thing, the 80s and 90s, and that we've gotten through that dark age, right? And now we're on the other side of it, and now companies remember that, people like to actually tweak their sounds with like knobs and whatnot. So I don't think we'll ever see that period again where there is no hands-on control of the sound that we're creating. Like we're past that. So for a long while, the price was rising just because that was the only way to have a synth
IK
that could-
Multimedia? IK Multimedia, paging IK Multimedia.
So I feel like like we've moved past that point to where we no longer are forced to buy old gear in order to control it correctly. You know what I mean?
Well, let's change tax a little bit. So in my price watch thing, I always show things for sale on like those eBays or Reverbs and stuff. I thought this time I want to show you guys what it's like to buy a Moog 1 in Australia. This is an Australian retailer, and this is how much in Australian dollars you can buy a Moog 1 for. Okay, this is a 16 voice.
So
The 8 voice is a bit cheaper, of course. So halve that, and that's pounds. Ish. Actually, it's probably a little bit less than half now because you got your pounds not as strong. But okay, so that's how much you can buy it. Now, most of the retailers, I've had a quick look, they'll sell it for the same ish price, within $50, $80, $100. So it's all pretty much around that $16, $17, $100 mark. Now, let's fly over the ditch to the USA, the lovely USA, and let's jump onto Sweetwater and see how much they sell them there. Now, just remember, $1 Australian is not the same as $1 US, so there's that. Okay, but what I thought I'd do is I just quickly tell you that $8,499 US is 11,000 Australian dollars. Now, don't tell me about freight. Don't tell me about import duties. Don't tell me about any of that crap, because this is a retailer. This is someone who's selling a synth at the door that you can walk in, part with your, whether it's the, you're going to Sweetwater's not really you can't really walk in the door there, but this one you can. So you're parting with your 17,000 Australian dollars and walk out with the Moog one. This has nothing to do with importing, duties, taxes or anything like that. This is how much they're selling it, okay? Now you go back to Sweetwater, all right, which is 11,000 Australian dollars. I just wanted to point out to people here the sort of pain that we have in this country. And there's other countries, I'm not saying we're the only ones, there's other countries in the world that have this sort of issue. And I'm going to swear, it fucking sucks. That's what sucks.
It does.
That really sucks.
I feel your pain, man.
So that's why I do my price watch segment.
Can I twist the knife?
Twist it.
Where I live, no sales tax.
Yeah, you're Delaware. Yeah,
no sales tax.
Yeah.
Yay, Delaware. No sales tax. Yeah, that's hurtful, man. And shout out to Corey. He just got a Moog one the other day.
I still want one. I just don't know how I'm going to afford it. That's my problem. Like,
I don't lust for one. I really kind of don't. And I played it and I liked it. I actually played. I thought I was gonna like the Quantum more, and I played a Quantum was literally on top of the Moog one, and I sat with them for about 2 hours, I think, and I walked away from it liking the Moog one more. That being said, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I only have one car. That thing literally costs as much as a car.
That is, it's a car.
At least
that is a car. That's
the car
insane.
the car that my family drives right now, that thing costs about what we paid for it. So
anyway, so
it's half a year of my rent.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, if you guys are feeling sorry for me, you can just super chat, and the money will go towards my Moog one purchase. It might take about another 1,000 episodes of super chats to get there, but anyway, just joking. Right, okay, we have reached all the segments. We've reached the end of the normal stuff that we get through. Now we can release the doves, and they can fly away, and now we can do our main topic. Yay! So, just to remind everybody, the main topic was 2021. We're talking about gas, synth manufacturers, music tech, right? Predictions, rumors, and desires. Okay, so let's start with what are your predictions? What do you think is going to come out this year? Obviously, we've talked about a few things already on the news section. We know that Behringer are going to bring out a whole bunch of crap. So other than that we've already talked about, what predictions can we talk about? This is a good topic. I thought we'd sink our teeth in it. Rumors are basically exactly what it says. Desires are your personal wish that you think, okay, I would love it if so-and-so would just make a blah, blah, blah. And one example of that is, I wish Korg would remake the ARP Quadra, because Korg make beautiful ARP remakes, right? So there's one. Okay, so that's a desire, but it's not a rumor and it's not a prediction. All right, so by the way, talking about predictions, here's mine. And I've got plenty, but this is just because it's related to the new segment. The Roland Groovebox that they just launched, I think it might be a bit of a flop. just a prediction there. So I don't know if it's going to be a big seller for them. But because I think, honestly, where they should have gone is they still should have brought out a decent, a new sampler that replaces some of their older crap that they've got, that everyone's tired of. They missed the boat there. I don't know if they've still got something planned, who knows, but...
I mean, would you consider the 707 to be that, or no?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also think that they're well overdue to bring out a new iteration of the MX1 mixer, because there's been people that have...
Yeah.
talked about what it could have had, and it never had it, and that there's like lists and lists of
cool
forum posts.
too.
It's a great product. They should, what they should do is build on that, because there's definitely a following in that little tiny corner that they've produced there. So now, so that's a desire, really, isn't it? It's not really a prediction, but yeah, prediction flop. All right, we've got a couple of chatties who are jumping in. So let's see. Native VS is saying, ever played a Quadra? I'd rather have a polyphonic Odyssey or a Quadra. Yeah, look, I've played a Quadra. I love it. Maybe it's because I used to listen to like early New Order or late Joy Division, and they had an ARP Quadra, and I just love the sound of the ARP strings, and it's like 4 analog synths built into one. It's crazy, that synth. It's just like a madman's dream. I love it. I love those kind of quirky synths. Azio Head said, I wish someone would make a Hartmann Neuron successor. This form of synthesis is just left unexplored. That's a really, really good point. That's a really good point. And that was all based
around resonators, right?
Yeah. I love that resonator stuff. That's awesome.
The closest thing right now would be like the Iridium. You know?
Yeah, could be.
That's why I bought one, was just because it does the sampling, the granular, FM, and then it has the physical modeling resonator on it. The wavetable and virtual analog stuff, like, that's kind of nice to have, but I have plenty of other stuff that does that. But yeah, like the fact that they threw all that extra stuff in there, that was like exciting for me. And in truth, I haven't really dug into it enough yet. Just haven't had time. Yeah,
I think we got one
in the chat. We
got one more from X101. He said a true follow-up from the Octatrack, as opposed to the Mark II, which is just a whole bunch of the same thing, different color, different buttons, but the same thing. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. Axel Soft has said Casio to make a comeback with the new phase distortion synth, the CZX. Yes, that'd be a good one. Absolutely.
Ken, they tried a little while back with that WX series, and it just ended up feeling like they didn't really put their heart behind it in the right way, in my opinion. But no, somebody else in the chat mentioned a standalone Push 3. That would be great.
But that's kind of,
and for me,
that's kind of the force, isn't it? Really. I mean, the Force is pretty almost that, isn't it?
Sort of. You know what I like about the Force is just that it's like this weird hybrid between an MPC and Ableton Live. So it's not quite either one, but it's like a nice, like, if you want to get into Ableton Live style production, but you feel like the UI just kind of like puts you off, and you're familiar with an MPC, it is a great stepping stone, because it'll get your mind thinking Ableton Live style, but you still have that fundamental basics of like how you sample and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so and now they've finally released that. Now they've finally released that firmware. It's killer. It's killer now. So
yeah, it is a really cool piece of kit. The
only thing I was going to say, the only thing that I reckon they should do, and I'm sure it's planned, is with that USB connection, that should show up in your DAW or on your computer as a multi-track audio interface. I'm sure they should be able to program that. I mean, this is a Linux box underneath the hood here, so
I've heard rumors of things like that, that it's something that is possible to be done and that sort of thing. But whether or not they choose to do it is the question, and whether or not they decide to do like because I believe Native Instruments did the same thing, but they tied it to only work with their interfaces. I don't know if that's 100% true or not.
What is that?
I hope that they don't do that. I would much prefer, it be just any class compliant USB interface should work. That would be great. But that, going off the Force thing, this is kind of one of my predictions, is we're going to see a lot more music synthesizer products, music tech products, using system on a board chipsets. So we saw that the Wave State, and I believe the OP6, I'm not sure if the OP6 does, but I believe it does. They use like the Raspberry Pi Zero. And I think you're going to start seeing more products using that kind of technology, because that's a really powerful chipset, and it's an affordable way for people to get, like for companies to use an affordable chipset that's crazy powerful. So when you dedicate it to one task, they can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more things that use Raspberry Pi and that sort of device in, because there's not just Raspberry Pi. There's Droid Zero or whatever it's called, and you would probably know more about this than I do, Rans, but there's a lot of, system on board type solutions that seem to be fairly affordable. I mean, for the cost of darn near just the chip, of a dedicated DSP chip, you can get those system on boards, and they already have like lots of ports and everything else. So I think we're going to see that. I have no idea what's going to happen with the whole Brexit thing. I'm really interested in how that plays out as far as the music tech side of things and the music industry side of things. But I suspect that's going to be interesting because there's some really cool companies based in England. And how is that going to affect their business and that sort of thing?
Yeah. A couple of points made during that. Axelsoft said he wishes Korg would make a limited run of a monopoly, true to the original. Probably in white, for no reason. Okay. I like that. Why is Access Virus still so expensive? Is it that good, says Sasquatch? And follow up to that is Access, what's happening? Hello? Are you guys, what are you doing? You could have definitely followed up with that synth.
That's what it's doing.
Yeah. Human Error said he actually desires something to kick him up the rear end to actually make some music. That would probably need to happen with me a few times. Did so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good point.
I'm just envisioning like one of those cartoon things where it's like a boot on a rotor.
Yeah. In his studio, just constantly booting him. X101 said he wants Eurorack modules to use Teensy a lot. Okay. Yeah, the Teensy is a good chip base. There's some limitations with Teensy though.
I think he's saying that they
Polly Pumpkin saying Carp 2600 Mini.
Yeah. Well, we kind of know that would probably be a prediction, wouldn't it? We kind of know already that they've got
sort
one.
Of exists.
Yeah, because it's been in photos, and they've been deliberate about that, haven't they? Let's be honest. It's in their product photos. Come on, you don't get any more deliberate.
Don't you feel like we kind of should have seen the official announcement for that thing already? Like, I don't know, man. I feel I want one, and I try to tell myself you don't have room for one, but I want one.
Yeah.
I see a lot of room there.
He's got room.
No, it's
on that side. No, that side. On that side of your room.
Still room for more shelves.
This side's even more filled with crap.
Now, the question is, I understand the Carp 2600 Mini is the Korg ARP 2600, just on a reduced font format. Would that include the keyboard as well?
Well, the photos showed it did have a little keyboard controller with it. So, as far as we know, it had a case, it had a little keyboard controller. There was, it shrunk a little bit, and some of the, features on the full-size one weren't on the other. So, there's been graphics shown in previous episodes of this show. If you have a look at the 2600 show, it's like we just talked about ARP 2600 all show. It was pretty good, actually. Speaking of 2600,
I think the other thing that we'll see,
I'm getting one.
I think the other thing that
it's the Behringer one though
is more keyboards coming out with polyphonic aftertouch.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
I think that if anybody has, I'm biased here, but if anybody's used a Hydrasynth keyboard, it's really like it makes it difficult to go to anything else. Now, I will say, like I was saying before about the Prophet keybed, I love how that Prophet keybed feels, but it doesn't have polyphonic aftertouch, and it makes me like, man, like that would be cool, because I've come to get very used to and loving like just playing like some basic like bass or a chord on my left hand and then bending those lead notes and stuff, and it's just like, why isn't everything doing this? Like, everything should be doing this.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
Yeah, it should be.
Totally.
It's happened before. It happened before. I mean, Ken, you've got an SQ80 up there, and Sonic produced the SQ80 with polyphonic aftertouch, the EPS with polyphonic aftertouch, the EPS 16 Plus, all these. They had polyphonic aftertouch, and nobody followed suit, or hardly anybody followed suit. And that was way back in the late 80s, early 90s.
And I will say that the way that ASM does it, it's like, it's much more controllable on the newer one, you know, because of the way the sensor is done. It like, so the, you know, just a quick thing on it. So this is magnetic, the way that they do that. So it's basically foam.
I'm sure the Hydrosynth's more refined.
And then you're pushing the key closer to a magnet, right? And that's how the circuit board senses it. And on the Hydrosynth, it's a different tech, and it's way more controllable. Like, I always kind of feel like on the SQ80, like I'm riding the line as to, am I getting some aftertouch or not? Like that kind of thing. And you just kind of learn to go with it. But yeah, man, it's both MPE and polyphonic aftertouch, I just feel like is getting more and more adopted. You're seeing more DAWs having the support for it. And I think Ableton 11 was already
Ableton 11, See, that might be the catalyst, Ken. That might be the catalyst. It might. It's sometimes it's cart before the horse syndrome. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to have that necessarily, maybe that DAW backing. Once that starts to sort of cement itself in the market, then you'll see the hardware flow in from the behind that. I love pioneers that bring out stuff that are way before everyone else does. Like we talked about in Sonic, they did it, and I mean ASM are doing it with the Hydrosynth. I mean Hydrosynth won an award for being the best synth in 2020. So they are obviously doing something right, you know. Let's go to the chatties quickly. There's a few things. JX3D said, I wish companies would keep their promises on rack mounting modules, Iridium Peak, Minilog, XD, not possible as promised on the ladder, and many more. And often solutions end up coming from other companies to fix them. Yeah, well, I added the bit to say to fix them because that's what they do. Okay, where was another one? There was another one that says, Sasquatch says, Behringer could destroy the market combining their new BCR32 Zaquinso with a poly aftertouch keyboard as a standalone. They could, yeah. I mean, as a MIDI controller, Behringer haven't got the best, you know, MIDI controllers, let's be honest, out there. So, or keyboards, but they're okay. They're not like terrible, but they're not the best either. And I saw there was another comment, and I think I've just missed it. Try to make sure you highlight my name if you want me to read out your comment, because it's really scrolling quick, and I've got to try and keep up.
People were mentioning a new Nord modular as well, and that's something that we've all been asking for a long time.
Oh, so like a G3.
I would love to see a Nord modular. Yeah.
Yeah, because what was the last one? Was it the G2 or
G2, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a while ago, man. That was a good long while ago.
Nord have been they've been innovative, but in just kind of very small areas in what they're bringing out in their synths, but they actually haven't had like a really big innovation like across the board with everything. It's been like they might bring out the, you know, a new version of an older version synth, and it's just got slightly better at some sort of special feature. And I kind of agree with you guys. I think Nord need to really sort of push something really big out and innovating, because they actually have some really good digital programmers in their company, like, because their digital world is, the sound of their synths are amazing. A lot of people who play performance live will swear by the Nord keyboards. They're just a real player's synth. Axelsoft has said, yeah, just give me one, so I'll just get through the comments because they scroll really fast.
Yes.
And the best new synth for 2021, the Akai Timberwolf 2 16 voice analog. Yeah, none of them. Yeah, with no envelope.
Imagine if it was good though. Like, imagine if that really happened and it was like Andromeda level.
Yeah, then there's problems again.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be funny.
Flo said Korg Electro 3. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe Korg bring themselves into that a bit more of a serious sample market. That's something Korg haven't really done. So Yeah. Now, so Eddie had a question. Let's go to Eddie.
How much it's now a MIDI controller with polyphonic aftertouch that is nice to use?
I don't think there is one. I don't know of a MIDI controller that's literally, I mean, other than getting a Hydra synth, because you could choose a Hydra synth as a MIDI controller.
Or the Rolly,
That's about,
apart from the Rolly.
Well, the Rolly's not like a proper, it's a different type of keyboard, right? So we're talking about normal piano sort of style keys for tar keys.
There was the Osmos, wasn't there? There was the Osmos, that's got a synth built into it. Well, that's got polyphonic aftertouch control and key wiggle, but again, it was actually quite pricey. Not stupidly pricey. Yeah, Max just said the Osmosa. That is one of the most interesting things to come out in a long time, from my point of view as a player. That I really like the idea.
Well, we'd like to see it come out. That's for sure, because it hasn't come out yet.
Has it actually never been released?
I don't remember. I think it's just all been like we're about to do this, and it's just been a whole like. But that's them. They do that. So, Linstrument, Linstrument's got, but that's not really the same thing. Again, that's kind of like that Matrix sort of playing thing. I like the Linstrument; it's cool, but you've got to be kind of one of those people.
I think we'll see a lot of movement on the workstation front too. I think that there's a lot to go on there, because most of the ones, aside from the Phantom, that are on the market right now are actually fairly old. So like, the Montage, what's the one from the other one?
OBX, the Kronos.
So that one's getting pretty old too.
I feel
like we're going to
Korg just released a new one, didn't they? I'm sure they just released a new one. When they did the OP6, there was a new Nautilus or something.
Yeah, but wasn't it a stripped down
Nemesis,
thing?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The Nautilus,
yeah,
but that was like more of a stripped down Kronos. So that's them getting the last drip out of that Kronos engine.
True.
So I'm kind of I'm trying to remember, because I remember they said that it was using something else. I forget. But anyway,
while you're thinking about that one, actually, Ken, because that actually brings into one of my desires, which I've grown to have this desire over the last few weeks or so, and oddly enough, it's an MPC one built into an 88 note piano action keyboard, like the Studio Logic SL88 Grand. That would be absolute heaven. I would think that'd be amazing. So what you've essentially got, if you've got an MPC built into a thing with an 88 note weighted keyboard, you've got like an amazing workstation there. Natives just said you can build it into Robbie's KX88 for me, and I'll be in heaven. Now, I just think that's a really good idea. I mean, okay,
so
I know
kind of
like
heading down the Fairlight sort of
and stuff.
Yeah, like a bit like a Fairlight.
No, actually, it harks back to the Korg Kronos, really, in that sense of a synth sequencer, drum machines, hard disk recording, all of that. But I feel that, and we mentioned this when we were talking about the W30, when sampling on the W30, there was no sense of detachment. You sampled, you played. I feel a sort of detachment from this when I'm trying to, playing here, it's up there, playing there, and I just
sure.
It was just, that's actually one of my desires, and I'd love to see that. And I know that Akai have made good keyboards with good keypads in the past, so it's not beyond the wit of man that they could do it.
To me, that just what you said, it's almost like the Korg M3, because that Korg M3 was massive amount of voices. It was all digital, of course. It had a sequencer, it had a sampler, it had that Karma thing, that massive arpeggiator on steroids thing. So it had all that, and the only thing that kind of let it down was that it just didn't sound. The synth engine wasn't as good as the more modern ones that we get today. I mean, I've got one sitting here, so maybe Korg could probably do that. Like I said before, I feel like Korg need to sort of tap into that sample market, because they've made some really good sample gear.
Very easy to see Akai doing other form factors for the Force. You know what I mean? Like for the Force or for any of that stuff. Like it'd be very easy to see them move. You know, considering how much key synth stuff is in the MPC, it's very easy to see them move into like that kind of workstation territory, like an ASR kind of thing, where it's, you know, a synth and it's a sampler and, you know, and a keyboard kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that me personally, as someone who's not a staged keyboardist, I always look at workstations like I want a nice workstation that has all those bread and butter sounds and some synthesis and whatnot. But for the most part, they tend to lack onboard controls. So I'm really hoping that in the future we see more workstations come out with hands-on controls. You see a little bit of that in the Phantom, where the Phantom has, you know, it's got that analog synth section area. I would really like to see more focus on them putting like knobs with scribble strips on them. Like that's the other thing is, like, for me, you know, we talked about the dark ages of like the 80s and 90s and keyboard design, and I'm like really surprised that these companies haven't gotten their head right about putting knobs with scribble strips on them, and, you know, so that you can just easily jump to different sections of a synth, know exactly what that knob is and what its value is, you know? Like, that should be on every MIDI controller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
One thing about that, why is preventing or stopping, or do we actually even like it? Because we keep asking hands-on control, hands-on control. I want one note per operation. I want to be able to deep dive in the whole control of the sound. Why is wrong with the touchscreen route, apart from the price of the implementation? But what would it be wrong of having a, let's fantasize, big deal on a huge touchscreen service, like 3 iPads in a row, that you can transfer the whole screen in a bunch of touch-sensitive wheels and buttons and wheels, just in a matrix to go into synthesis layer or sampling layer or multi-track layer?
So
what
I
is
think
wrong with that?
For certain things that it kind of makes sense, but I think especially for performers and whatnot, we like tactile control. So, like, for me, exactly. I have iPad, and I tend to hate using it unless I'm using it with a controller, because I want tactile response. That being said, that's kind of what the Quantum does with when you're in the kernel mode. You have like these circular knobs and whatnot, and you can do them from the tactile knobs, but I can also just touch and move it like that. So if you had a whole bunch of touch, like let's say you had 4 touch screens, and you had knobs all around the touchscreen on each one, I could see that being something pretty cool. And touchscreens are surprisingly not that expensive, you know, for manufacturers wise. So they're not like they used to be. That's for sure. You know, it used to be prohibitively expensive, and now you're seeing this 7-inch touchscreen. I would bet money is the same one that's on the Force, is the same one that's on the Live. You know, like it's used in so many other products these days that, you know, the cost of them have been really driven down.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So after your wishes and dreams, I thought I was dreaming big, and obviously I've been outgrown.
I think you're onto something interesting of having multiple of those, because I haven't seen any product that does multiple touchscreens on one device like that, though. You know,
I mean,
like if you had a full workstation with multiple. Here's the big problem that I see with that idea, because I like the idea, and I would want to have, like I said, like knobs all around, whatever. But the big issue with doing that on a workstation would be that capacitive screens like this, if you're on a screen or on a stage outside and it's misty or it's wet or anything like that, that can be a nightmare, because you get like these mist triggers and all kinds of weirdness going on. That's the only drawback to that sort of thing that I can think of.
Okay. No, I was about to say that noise.
Go ahead. Well, yeah, just
noise?
digital noise from the screens. Like, that's like a whole other engineering problem.
I've never heard of that. So yeah, my only dream for the next year is I'm dreaming of Behringer releasing our module fairly priced CS80. That's my only.
And they've been working on that for a while, right?
They have.
Well, they've been threatening with it for a while, but will they actually do it?
They've been fighting with Yamaha for a while, yeah.
Oh.
Because that's
Let's
one
see how that one
I
goes.
would do it. As long as it sounds.
You guys ever think we'll see a return to rack samplers?
I love rack samplers. But that's only because I've used them, you know. So
Yeah.
I do like the rack mount format. I think it should come back. Not for everything.
It's kind of
obviously.
disappeared, right? 19-inch racks are like, it's wild how.
Not to me. Not to me, because that's the only thing I can afford.
I think
but
I think they'll come back. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, I really like having the format of having knobs and all that, but yeah, like you should still be able to rack mount stuff.
I love rack stuff. I love it. I've got a rack right here, right, like literally there, hand, and I've got MKS70 in there. That's a massive synth.
Racks everywhere,
and it doesn't take up any space. So you know.
And a huge amount of controllers.
Hey guys, quickly.
Control.
What about this synth? Did anyone dream about this synth coming out?
Dude, that's actually kind of cool.
Amazing.
I was just quickly.
It just needs an 88 note
That's
keyboard.
awesome. I don't know who did that, but that's awesome.
I did it. I just did it in Photoshop just then.
Oh, that's hilarious. I was wondering what you were doing over there.
Oh, runs.
That's awesome. You got to share that around, man. That's great.
Yeah, stick it out there,
That's
Ramsey.
hilarious.
That's a winner. But can you do one? Can you do one with an 88 note keyboard next time, please?
Yeah, just stretch the keyboard. Just cut and paste the keyboard 50 times.
Give that 61 keys, 2 mod wheels, and more knobs, and that's gold.
Ken, 88. We want 88 keys. 188.
Man,
keys.
nobody knows how to play piano. Cut it out.
No, I'm with him. Even if you don't use them.
That's what my wife calls all this stuff. Pianos.
Oh yeah. Okay.
No, nobody knows how to play piano. Oh,
Nope.
Hey,
It's a myth.
Oleg in chat, Grey Wolf has just said, years ago there was a V machine, a small box running VSTs. Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah, that wasn't actually that long ago.
Well, there was the V machine, and there was the was it reactor, or was it what was it called? Oh man, there was a rack mount one that did that. And then there was also the Plugiator, which did specific plugins.
Yeah, there was one that let you just load one VST in. What was that one? Was that the V machine? Was that
Muse Receptor? That's it. Native
Receptor.
with the wind. There it is. Yeah. Muse Research Receptor. Yeah, and again, like with those system on board layouts, like they could definitely be doing that. I think we're going to see a lot more things coming out for Linux platform, just because you're seeing gear that's running, basically Linux in the background. So these companies are having to do these ports anyway. So why not support things like Bitwig on Linux and that sort of thing? Maybe we start seeing more VSTs on the Linux platform. How cool would it be if in the not so distant future, Linux became like the choice of the musician, and kind of how Mac was, some years ago, and Linux like grew into its own self-sustaining platform where it was actually well supported. How crazy would that be?
I like that thought.
To not be under Apple's boot.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, because I play with Linux all the time, that there's actually some cutting edge audio development on the Linux platform that things like Windows and Apple haven't even got to yet. So there's you can get like alpha and beta type kernels that they've got like development code, and there's some crazy stuff out there. And the other thing too is, and even if you just want to sort of settle down and be a bit more normal with Linux, you can put Bitwig on it. Bitwig is a pretty decent DAW. So at that sort of level, you've got a pretty killer sort of setup. It does MIDI, it does multi-track audio recording. It handles multiple devices a lot better than what Windows and Mac do. And there's none of this ASIO for all and aggregate devices, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty cool what you can do with Linux. And I mean, I've been using Jack and all of those programs for years. They were awesome. Sorry, I quickly mentioned big thank you to Wagoo for the super chat. I missed it as it came in because I was kind of distracted, but thank you very much for the super chat. The money will go towards the Moog 1. Now I've only got $16,991 left to go.
No, you were commenting about Linux being able to handle multiple input devices. Obviously, once again, I come from the I can't afford shit point of view. I got this. It's not only that I have this only 2 input interface that needs to grow. I'll have to basically sell one to buy another one because you cannot add more extra channels as long as you need it. But I have a GR55. That's 2 channels of input for synths, not even voice, not even nothing. I got a GT100. That's another 2 channels of input and output. They're both USB audio interfaces for recording. Why can't I record voices and guitar synth at the same time? It's all USB connection.
It's probably because they haven't developed
First
it.
of all, clarify. I'm using Cubase. I'm the only stupid on the planet who is using Cubase.
I wouldn't say
I've
that.
been using it lately. That's
Cubase
been my
is alright.
new go-to for like the last 2 weeks, man. Like Cubase is absurdly powerful. It's for work for one. But Cubase is like Cubase puts a lot of dolls to shame when it comes to feature set. Like it really does.
I need to pick your brain a lot. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, Cubase does full polyphonic aftertouch recording. The UI feels dated, but at the same time, it's just like functionality wise. When you start digging into that thing, oh my god! Like Cubase is crazy powerful.
That's why I can't understand and making any word out of it.
Well, I would not recommend it to someone who's like, I don't want to know every little nut and bolt of a DAW because you kind of need to with that one.
I do want to. I just don't find the info.
I use the other DAW that I really like is Studio One. And Studio One is actually a team that broke off of Cubase when they did that. They were originally Cubase developers. Yeah. I love Studio One in the way that I used to love Logic. And that's actually when I switched, I was a Logic guy before that, and then I switched to Studio One. And I still feel like Studio One is probably the most intuitive DAW that I use. But for work, I've been getting more into Cubase, and man, Cubase is just like the power under the hood of that thing is so deep. Like it literally has every functionality that you could kind of throw at it, and but it's all a matter of like how do you get to it and how do you arrange it, and it can be a nightmare on that level, but the power is there.
So what about predictions for DAWs this year? I mean, we know that Ableton are bringing out 11. We've seen the beta, and that's been well documented. There's been recent upgrades to Cubase, recent upgrades to... I don't think there's been an upgrade recently to Studio One yet, so they're due for one, because they like to usually
Behringer said that they were coming out with a doll. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that'll be called Babel.
Who knows
Bableton.
Where that's at? That could be 10 years off. That could be tomorrow. We don't know.
Bableton.
But yeah. So there's that. I think I just think we're gonna start seeing a push towards I'm really crossing fingers that MIDI 2.0 works out, and I think we're gonna start seeing a push towards integrating MIDI 2.0 into our DAWs and doing that handshake, so that as gear comes out, both controllers, mixers, keyboards, all that, that whole handshake where it just tells it what it is and it just works.
I can't wait for that.
Hopefully we start seeing that stuff really start to come to fruition, because I'm really, like, I'm ready to move forward. Like, there's stuff about MIDI 2.0 that might be frustrating or whatever, but let's move forward. Let's get there.
Yeah, I really can't wait for it. I mean, I've been, you guys know that we've had Andrew Me on the show quite a lot. Big hello to you, mate, if you're watching. He's probably snoring his head off right now. But, the whole MIDI, we had Athen Bilius on from MMA on this channel. When did we do that? It was almost a year ago, I reckon. It was probably about this time last year we did all that. So there hasn't been, in our mind, directly in front of us, there hasn't seemed to be much more sort of development in the MIDI, but I can guarantee you there's been a massive amount of development behind the scenes. They've been working really, really hard on getting stuff finished. There's like documentation and governance and guides and all that. They've been working really, really hard. So I feel it's really close. Someone said to me, I think at the start of last year, it was about 3 years away. So that makes now 2 years away. That's probably, I would say it's maybe even less than that, maybe 18 months away. It's just a guess. I actually don't know because they haven't told me.
I'd say less than that.
Yeah,
I reckon we'll get it solid. Soon. I think now that things are solid, you're going to start seeing a push from companies there's going to be some push to want to be first, which, we saw Roland push their controller out, but that wasn't really 2.0. That was like MIDI 1.5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think now that it's solidified, I think we're going to see a push of like the first group who want to be first, and then we're going to start seeing actual proper implementation. And I feel like it's just right around the bend, because people are like clamoring for it. It's not like people don't want this. It's not like people don't care. People do care, and people really like some of the functionality that it will bring to the table. Will make it easier for people who aren't, the Verselab people. It's going to make them easier for those people to get involved in music. You know what I mean? Like the people who are just jumping in. You know how complicated it is to try to explain to somebody NRPN that's never done it? It wraps my head up, and I've been doing it for 10 years, 10, 15 years. So, this stuff is all aimed at making things easier, let alone the higher resolution, which the higher resolution is going to be.
I've never used NRPNs. I think there's a lot of complexity in it that you don't actually need to use. One of the things I was going to comment on was it must be so much harder these days to agree a standard, because there are so many more people, so many more companies producing MIDI products than there were back in the 1980s. In the 1980s, you had a number of companies in America and a number of companies in Japan who agreed a standard amongst themselves. Basically, sequential circuits, Roland, Yamaha, Korg, EMU systems, perhaps one or two others around at the time, who agreed that, and because they were the market dominant forces, everybody else had to come on board. But they got it right with MIDI back then. It was as good as it probably could have been at the time. Okay, now here we are. I've said it before on here. I still think it's utterly astounding that a standard that was agreed in a format that was devised in 1983 is still being used on synthesizers today. I still think that's remarkable, and for it to have taken 30 plus years to be updated to MIDI 2 is a little, is a testament to how good MIDI was in the first place.
Yeah.
There's one thing I thought I'd like to spread and to ask and pick your brains. With MIDI 1, because as you said, there wasn't so many companies, and the rest of the companies started joining in, and because the market wasn't really calling for it or even understanding it or even be able to afford it, the implementation of the full power of MIDI came gradually. every new device had a little more MIDI implementation, and so on. I don't think that the scheme of things would work with 2.0, because if they don't standardize, or if they don't implement everything that 2.0 is promising from the get-go, people is just gonna get pissed. If you buy your brand new synthesizer because it's 2.0, because 2.0 should be able to do this, and this, and suddenly you find that that particular model has half of the capabilities off and half of the computing power off, wouldn't you get really crossed?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably not quite like that. I mean, time is the formula here. When things came out, I think it had a lot to do with the microchip, because when MIDI first came out, there was still issues with microchips not being able to handle what MIDI could potentially do, and then obviously the digital age, digital revolution, it didn't take long, but there was microchips and they were able to do it. But if you think about it, synths that are being released today still aren't releasing their MIDI implementation properly. They're not the recent, like, manufacturers, even like Roland and that, they're producing firmware updates because they're still playing catch up, because they haven't actually fully implemented their MIDI side. For you to interface to the back end of that synth. So even today, it's like 30 years, like Ken said, it's a long time ago, but they're still not even getting it right. So the whole point with MIDI 2.0 is to actually simplify that. And there's a whole sort of hierarchy. Go check it out. You should go and have a read. It's actually really, really cool what they've come up with, where basically you plug your synth in, and that'll tell the MIDI controller what it's got available, and then the MIDI controller
will tell it whether or not they're both 2.0. And if it's not, then it'll
drop down.
It'll run MIDI 1. But yeah, like the handshake stuff is great. Listen, guys, I gotta run because the wife is gonna beat me up.
We're gonna end the show. so you hang out for one more minute, and we'll end the show. And we can all go together. Yep. So I just think on that note, anyway, I think we've talked some really, really good predictions. Not many rumours came out. I was hoping someone might come up with a rumour. Mac wanted to know, I thought Ramsey might have mentioned the V3 firmware of the Microfeet. Look, there's only so much news we can fit on a show, Mac. So, I'm not a big fan of the Microfreak personally, so that's probably why I didn't mention it. Other shows will mention it. I'm sure there's the Synth Pro Network. They're doing their show next tomorrow, and they've got a really good guest coming on that show as well. So definitely check that out. People like it. Some people don't. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's joined in today to the show, the chatties. Big thank you to you guys. Big thank you to Eddie with his first show. He did really well. So round of applause for Eddie. He did well. Andrew, thanks for coming on so regularly. Appreciate you. Always. Ken, thanks for your insights. It's always really, really nice to have you on the show too.
Just real quick, I have an interview with Chris Kaiser of Noise Engineering. I think it's next Sunday, the 24th. So if you go to my channel and click the notification bell, it'll tell
him that Ramsey needs modules.
Will do. I actually
so does Andy. Andy could do
some as well. I don't think I have any noise engineering in my system right now, which does make me sad.
I really like his stuff. It's so cool. Just quickly wrapping it up. News from my end, ARP 2600 by Behringer is coming my way, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So that's I've done that. I just can't wait for Korg to release their mini version. So I'm just getting the ARP one. I'm going to be putting the thing that Mac told me about ages ago. I'm going to be going back there, and I'm going to be having a little sort of desk mount rack put in. So that's going to happen. Guys checked out, probably would have recently seen that I got a whole bunch of Eurorack modules in. So hopefully there'll be some stuff coming out, a bit more detailed with all those sort of things. Ken, if you haven't checked it out, I've got a whole bunch of Eurorack modules. Some of them you'll probably like the voltage block and the Batumi, and Pico Erica drums, synths, and things like that. So yeah, go check all that stuff out. Man. It's all good. Big thanks to everyone. Waving goodbye. End of stream.
Yeah, take care, everyone. See you soon.
See you later.